Ready? Okay. Salam sejahtera to the guests of honor, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Shahul Dawood, Chief Executive of the Human Resource Development Corporation, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Megat Najmuddin Megat Khas, Chairman of the Malaysian Institute of Management, Mr. Sivayanam Rajaratnam, Chief Executive Officer of the Malaysian Institute of Management, MIM General Council members, our distinguished speakers, and to all participants in attendance here with us for our first hybrid conference. We've got close to 65 people at the Le Meridian Putrajaya, 200 persons via Zoom this morning, and we are live on Facebook today. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Stella Jacobs, and I will be your MC for today's program. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's MIM Crucial Conversations titled Transforming MSMEs, Harnessing Human Capital to Thrive in the Digital Economy. Before we begin the session, kindly have your handphones on silent mode or switch them off during the session. Kindly have your face masks on at all times and maintain social distancing. Before we start with the welcome address, we would like to present you a short video of the many MIM Crucial Conversations held throughout this year.
Malaysians have the view that corruption is not a problem that can be solved at the level of government. That corruption, that there isn't sufficient political will at the level of the government, whether we're talking about politicians or we're talking about government officials, there isn't sufficient political will to solve the problem, and therefore the solution lies elsewhere in society, civil society.
So a very strong campaign, is needed by the government to push for digital inclusion. And digital adoption, not just for certain groups of people, but for everyone.
We know that women have made some very important gains in representation, and you will actually see the data and trends that I'm going to share with you especially in senior leadership, but we also know that the pandemic continues to take a toll. We now know that women are significantly more burnt out and far more increasingly more so than men.
Ever since 1998, Malaysian governments have been in deficit spending mode. In other words, there has been no serious attempt to try to balance the budget ever since then. So every time the deficit limit, the debt limit is raised, it is a matter of some concern.
Place to enable every Malaysian to have a device, connectivity, a device and suitable content. It's from me.
And also, Dr. Shalin, perhaps, affordability is also important.
Of course, goes without saying.
Because we could have great connections, we could have the device content, but we are looking at the B40 in terms of that.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, 9 webinars with 3,500 attendees that attended the webinar. Kindly put your hands. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please put your hands together for Yang Berbahagia, Tan Sri Datuk Sri Megat Nashmuddin Megat Khas, Chairman of the Malaysian Institute of Management, to deliver his welcome address. Do you want to do? Yeah.
Glasses. Misting up. Glasses. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Stella, thank you.
Most welcome.
Yang Berhad, Datuk Shahul, Dawood, Chief Executive, Human Resource Development Corporation, Corp, Mr. Siva Kanam, CEO of the Malaysian Institute of Management, MIM, and our distinguished speakers, Mr. Leong, Weng, the Chief Business Officer of Credit Guarantee Corporation, Malaysia, Berhad, Mr. Bernard Yap, Malaysia Financial Services and Private Clients Services Leader and Partner, Ernst & Young, Tax Consultant Sdn Berhad, Mr. Jivan Braju, Country Head, Malaysia Tata Consultancy Services, and to all participants in attendance, physical and virtual. Selamat pagi. Please allow me to welcome all of you to the MIM Crucial Conversations, our hybrid conference titled Transforming Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, MSMEs, Harnessing Human Capital to Thrive in the Digital Economy. To begin, I would like to congratulate Datuk Shahul Dawood and his team at HRD Corporation, HRDC, on their successful rebranding exercise that will play a pivotal role in support of talent development. Given that HRDC and MIM are organizations involved in nation building interventions, we hope this long-established partnership is sealed with your presence here today. I am sure that together we will make great strides. Also, my sincere appreciation to our long-standing partner, the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, who have been instrumental in the success of our webinar series. My appreciation also goes out to our supporting partners, Federation of Public Listed Companies, FPLC, and the Malaysian Insurance Institute for their continuous support. Ladies and gentlemen, micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, are the engine of growth in Malaysia, creating jobs for the masses, motivating the development of new products and services, spurring consumption growth, and playing a crucial role in promoting industry competitiveness. Almost 99% of total business establishments in Malaysia are MSMEs. So it is important for Malaysian MSMEs to accelerate and move towards digitalization to continue scaling the digital economy. However, the impact of coronavirus on business activities of MSMEs globally has been significant, although numerous government policies and responses to curb the pandemic has been continuously evolving. Most businesses are exposed to negative effects in either short or even in the long-term periods. Ladies and gentlemen, a report by Deloitte UK entitled FinTech and SME Navigating COVID-19 had mentioned that the priority focus remains on protecting employees, customers, and the wider community. And according to this report, companies having adopted FinTech and digital solutions are better positioned with technology at their core, as well as having the agility, flexibility, and remote working already embedded in their DNA. At the same time, cash, and ensuring liquidity and quickly accessing the government initiatives will no doubt be top of their mind. The report recommends that SMEs leaders should manage the challenges that lie ahead through the key dimensions of respond, recover, and thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to the expert insights and panel discussions from our distinguished speakers today. I hope you will walk away with valuable nuggets to overcome barriers in harnessing human capital in this new digital economy. And ladies and gentlemen, the Malaysian Institute of Management have ourselves embraced digital transformation since 2019. We have incorporated digitalization in our internal operations as well as service offerings to elevate customer experience and outreach. Our very first hybrid conference has made it possible for us to accommodate participants in the hall and simultaneously reaching out to the masses from within and beyond the shores of the country. And lastly, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the recipients of the certificates in SME Transformation and Digital Marketing Specialist Program under the PENJANA initiative. This would not have been possible without the support of the HRDC team under the able leadership of Datuk Shahul Dawood. So with these words, I thank all of you and wish you a very insightful conference. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Megat. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together in welcoming to the stage Yang Berbahagia Datuk Shahul Dawood, Chief Executive of the Human Resource Development Corporation, HRDC Corp, to deliver his keynote address on the topic Transforming MSMEs, Harnessing Human Capital to Thrive in the Digital Economy.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Megat Najmuddin Megat Has, Chairman of the Malaysian Institute of Management, Malaysian Institute of Management General Council members, Mr. Sivanyanam Rajaratnam, Chief Executive Officer of Malaysian Institute of Management, Tan Sri, Datuk, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank the Master of Ceremony for hosting this program this morning. I'd like to thank the organizers, Malaysian Institute of Management, for inviting me to this event. Today's session, the MIM Crucial Conversation, an initiative to hold bold and open conversations and discussions centered on current topics that will raise awareness in Malaysia. The topic is Transforming MSMEs, Harnessing Human Capital to Thrive in the Digital Economy. Human capital has always been the most important factor in ensuring an organization's efficiency and profitability. As the pandemic continued to unfold, technical innovations that underpin digital transformations have been crucial in helping companies respond to the crisis. The transformation to the digitalization has rapidly changed the human capital, and the rapid development of innovation process requires employees to quickly learn new technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the actual fact and the truth. It is not the technology, it is the people who drive the digital transformation to be a successful one. It is not a faith in the technology, it is a faith in the people. It was once said by Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple. Transformations are hard and digital ones are harder. One of the most important factors to succeed in digital transformation is the talent and the skills development throughout the organization, which is also a fundamental action for traditional transformations. The Future of Job reports in 2020 suggest that 50% of all employees will need reskilling by year 2025. However, we are far from achieving this target within the stipulated time frame. According to HRD Corp's Industry Training Participation Report 2020, the percentage of employees trained among the HRD Corp registered employers in 2020 ranged from 12% to 14%. In 2019, the employees training ratio was ranged between 24 and 25%. Training activities declined in 2020 clearly due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the MCO. Many trainings are not able to happen during this period of time. Earlier this year, an expansion of the Act, PSMB Act 2021, was implemented to include all industries in Malaysia in the HRD Corp funds, programs and services. With the expansion of the Act, there was an increased number of registered employers from 33,000 employers. Today we stand at 65,000 employers. And we are expected to train almost 3.7 million employees in this period of time. Ladies and gentlemen, the primary reason why HRD Corp went on to expansion of the Act was simply to make sure that nobody should be deprived of training and development. Training and development shouldn't be exclusive one for people. It should be inclusive one. And that shouldn't be opportunity for people to choose who should go for training and development. For the fact, the World Bank report says that 5% of the funds should be allocated for training and development, whereas at Malaysia right now, we stand at 1% or below 1%. So we thought the best way to make training inclusive is only by expansion of the Act and by forcing people to make sure that they give importance to training and development. Ladies and gentlemen, it is also very alarming to see that SMEs don't give so much of importance to training and development. We see there's a decline in HRD Corp's employees training in the last year. Of course, last year is not a right benchmark due to pandemic. Even before pandemic, it started to decline. So HRD Corp, we are working aggressively to make sure that the training continues to grow and SMEs and MSMEs continue to train those people, the staff. According to HRD Corp internal data, the proportion of MSMEs employees engaging in training activities in 2020 is only 43%. The training pattern shows that safety and health, quality and productivity, and management or strategic management accounted for 46% of the training participation approved. Training offered to MSMEs, employees need to go beyond business management and should include specialized skills training in marketing, brand techniques, innovation, IoT, and digitalization of business. One of the factors that hinders MSMEs' productivity to stagnate is the lack of technology adaptation and dependency on low-skilled workers. Among the challenges faced by the enterprises in Malaysia is the moderate technology adaptation where the majority of the workforce is semi-skilled, according to the Global Entrepreneurship Index in 2019. Malaysia achieved the lowest score on the technology adaptation, which is only at 10%. It is a chicken and egg situation right now. The MSME employers feel that if I train, somebody might take them, or they might leave me and go and work for somebody else. The employees feel, if I stay here, I don't get any career growth, I'm not going to go through training and development. So I think it's a chicken and egg situation. But at large, as employers, it is our responsibility to make sure that we spend a reasonable amount of time in training, educating, and upskilling our workforce. You know, ladies and gentlemen, this pandemic has been a great lesson for many people. You know, either you're a big company, you're a small company, or an SME, or an MSME, nobody is left behind in going through the issues. It's the same issues, same problem, you know, and the only way is to move forward with the better results is by learning from the past. You know, upskilling and reskilling was one of the major factors in keeping those workforce still, you know, sustainable in the industry. And we don't have to do that exercise once we are hit through after the pandemic. We should continue to do that throughout the period of time. I'm very pleased that MIM has been one of the pioneer in steering all this, you know, training and development, knowledge-based programs. So I used to have a lot of very good working relationship during my period as an entrepreneur. You know, I'm very impressed even during those times. And now I was talking to the CEO that they have been doing, you know, multiple webinars during the pandemic, and they continue to engage the people. This is what we needed. If this pandemic wouldn't have come, Malaysians wouldn't have accepted the e-learning or hybrid learning. We still continue to focus on the face-to-face traditional programs. But this pandemic has pushed us beyond, borders, and to go through to make sure that we get adapted to technology quite fast. I think this is the normal human nature. Once you're pushed to the corner, we pick up things faster. And this pandemic has been a good thing for us to go into. Of course, there's a lot of challenges we had. There's a lot of problems we go through. But there's a lot of things we learned in this pandemic. If not for this pandemic, a lot of things would have been very stagnant and technology development would have been very slow. Ladies and gentlemen, the economic success of entrepreneurs depending heavily on their own effort and skills, regardless of various forms of government support being made available. Training offered to MSMEs employees should be focused more on marketing and branding techniques, innovation-based product development, and digitalization. Local entrepreneurs can no longer just focus on the domestic market. They must have a global presence to stay relevant on competitiveness. I was just going through some of those, articles on global issues on the MSMEs. The issues is the same. Either you're on overseas or you're on Malaysia, it's the same issues. The MSMEs doesn't have financial expertise on their own, number one. Nor the banks have financial trust on them. Number two, you have lack of, you don't have a proper workforce. Technology adaptation is very slow. Lack of trust among the financial institution on the MSMEs. So we know all these challenges are revolving us. In spite of so many challenges, how do we overcome the businesses? There's the only way to overcome business to acquiring right knowledge. And the right knowledge can be acquired only through having the right skills. So I think HRD Corp believes that, that we will go aggressive on the year 2022 to make sure that MSMEs and SMEs will be given a lot of attention. And we are working very closely with the employers to make sure that those SMEs, employees are trained, will have a proper certification. That's one of the reasons my minister, Yang Berhad Datuk M. Saravanan, launched micro-credentials a couple of months back. He feels that this certification and this micro-credentials will bring career growth, salary advancement in all SMEs and also the employees who are working for them. HRD Corp offers a variety of training schemes for employees and future employees. We have Rise Forward for Industry Forward initiative to support the fourth industrial revolution, IR 4.0. This was created to help SMEs begin or accelerate the digital transformation. We work with the MITI closely into this Rise Forward program. Beside this, we have introduced the SME skill scheme with the goal of increasing employees' level of competencies. Last but not least, we have launched eLatte portal that provides free online training to all Malaysians for reskilling and upskilling. There are more than 300 courses from basic to intensive programs. Ladies and gentlemen, when we launched the eLatte program, which is the online training programs, we have been very skeptical about it, whether the Malaysians accept it, are we ready to go for online. Alhamdulillah, today we stand at 400,000 people registered through eLatte. If not for this eLatte, I don't think so these 400,000 people acquired some sort of knowledge. You have different types of program. It's self-made, self-paced. You can go for fast learning or you can go slowly. You can go pick up your own pace, own available time to learn through this eLatte program. So once again, I would like to thank MIM for giving me the opportunity, inviting me. It is always good to see people. While we promote technology, we go for hybrid. It's nothing like meeting people face to face and interacting. And alhamdulillah, I think now we are coming out of this pandemic. This is third or fourth program after this pandemic. Once we started opening up after MCO, we started engage people. Last week we had a rebranding of HRDF to HRD Corp, and we have also Honorable Prime Minister have introduced the single window application, which is Upskill Malaysia, for all Malaysians to get connected to as a single platform for the upskilling, reskilling the whole nation. So HRD Corp is in the right mode to make sure that nobody is left behind in the training space. And we want to keep pace with the market. We continue to change, not just only the programs and development, we continue to change on the policies, what we have been having it. I used to share with my senior management team. We work in a very lucrative, very difficult time that nobody can plan something strong for the future. What we plan today, we might not know whether it is feasible to apply in 6 months' time or 1 year time. No more all those 5 years blueprint, 10 years blueprints will be effective. HRD Corp we have done, HRDF before we have done 5-year blueprint before pandemic. But post-pandemic, the entire landscape of the training and development has been changed. The spending on the training and development has been changed. The demand on the training and development has been changed. So we need to make sure that we are prepared to change our policies, our programs, and training development needs according to the market frequently to make sure that we stay relevant. So with that note, I would like to say thank you so much. And this conference or this engagement from MIM is very timely. And I encourage MIM to do more of this. And if any way HRD can be of assistance and help to you, we are more than happy to support you with the able leadership of Tan Sri and Mr. CEO, and we will be happy to work very closely with MIM. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Shahul Dawood, for the insightful information. Congratulations on the successful launch of e-Latte program with 400 learners, and congrats on the rebranding of HRDF to HRDC Corp. Ladies and gentlemen, during the pandemic, the government had rolled out several initiatives under the PENJANA scheme, and the Malaysian Institute of Management had the privilege of upskilling several MSME leaders and entrepreneurs with the objective of thriving during the challenging times brought about by COVID-19. Please let us watch a short video clip highlighting the moments from one of these programs.
Fantastic.
Practical?
Excellent. So in terms of the speakers, I think all of them are actually very good in the sense that they are more of a practitioner rather than in terms of the academic. So what they actually shared with us is actually very valuable, because we are also practitioners, and basically we could actually utilize what is actually being shared to us.
More adaptive leadership. And adaptive leadership is who allows the people to come together and develop this solution for themselves, because people are smart.
We emphasize our environmental friendliness, try and do our best to implement the SDGs, which are the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
With regards to the ALA Skillsoft e-learning module on customer engagement, I feel that it is a very good module, because my retail staff, they have been used to certain way of handling and negotiating with our customers. After attending this program, I have shared some of the key learnings, which is to practice active listening and also to be able to empathize with the customers.
MIM e-learning platform. Of course, there is a lot of videos there, articles globally and locally. It's very helpful for me to plan our company strategy.
Now that I am getting the MIM professional membership, I'm going to put it to good use. MIM has a very comprehensive, competent network of practitioners, and I look forward to engaging with them.
I felt very honored and very glad that I actually got the opportunity to join this MIM course.
I feel that the coming of this program is timely. especially during this COVID-19. This COVID-19 has changed the landscape of the business that I'm operating in.
It's very interesting because as a CEO, they've actually given us all area to cover. So it is very interesting that we could recall back the informations that we should gather, even though it's not related to us, but still we have an inside info so that I can use it in my own field.
In a comfortable position, I felt myself shifting to an uncomfortable position in a positive sense. I left feeling inspired and ready to transform my organization. In fact, as soon as I went back to work, I shared all the tools and materials that are given by MIM with my staff, and we are ready for the new normal.
Insight, I would actually call it insight, because throughout the course and the speakers, sharing of the content is actually gave a lot of insight in terms of the tools, management tools, and also the work that is related to our daily as a leader type of work. We get a lot of insight from this course content, which we can actually apply on a daily basis.
Very, very sure that what I've learned here, it will definitely help tremendously in getting results for my business.
The timing of this program is a godsend for me.
I said I wish I've attended this program 20 years ago. I would have done much well in my business. Thank you, HRDF.
Thank you, HRDF.
Thank you, HRDF.
Thank you, HRDF.
Thank you, MIM.
Thank you, MIM.
Thank you, MIM.
Thank you, MIM.
A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Job well done. We shall have the certificate presentation ceremony for the participants of the certificate in SME transformation and certificate in digital marketing specialist programs that were run under the PENJANA initiatives. To present the certificates to the participants, I would like to call upon Yang Berbahagia, Datuk Shahul Dawood, to come on stage, accompanied by Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Megat Najmuddin and Mr. Sivayanam. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating the participants with a round of applause. And the first person that we will call upon is Teng Woi Jun. Yu Mi Tung. Cheong Siu Chu. Muhammad Rais bin Ramli. Kanegaswari, anak perempuan Kandan. Siva Kumar, anak lelaki Jakaratan. Sanjeev Indran, anak lelaki Indran. Lam Fei Xiong. Vira Malay, anak lelaki Kai Puram. Muhammad Nazli bin Muhammad Zulkifli. Lee Shin Fung. Nur Syuhada binti Zainal. Raina binti Muhammad Razif. Mio Muhammad Azim bin Mio Asnam. P. Mahadaran, anak lelaki S. Perumal. Nur Najwa Arifah binti Muhammad Nasir. you Yang Berbahagia Datuk Shahul Dawood, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Megat Najmuddin, and Mr. Sivayanam. And now we would like to give a token of appreciation to Yang Berbahagia Datuk Shahul Dawood. Ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of the first half of the hybrid conference this morning. We shall take a short break now, and the session will resume sharp at 10:30. Refreshments are served at the ballroom foyer outside the hall. We would like to thank Yang Berbahagia Datuk Shahul Dawood for his kind presence this morning, as he has to take leave to other matters now. Thank you very much.
We know that women have made some very important gains in representation, and you will actually see the data and trends that I'm going to share with you, especially in senior leadership. But we also know that the pandemic continues to take a toll. We now know that women are significantly more burnt out, and far more increasingly more so than men.
Ever since 1998, Malaysian governments have been in deficit spending mode. In other words, there has been no serious attempt to try to balance the budget ever since then. So every time the budget, the deficit limit, the debt limit is raised, it is a matter of some concern.
Place to enable every Malaysian to have a device, connectivity, a device and suitable content. my from me.
And also, Dr. Shalin, perhaps, affordability is also important.
Of course, goes without saying.
Because we could have great connections, we could have the device content, but we are looking at the B40s, in terms of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could kindly take your seats as we will be resuming the remaining part of the session today. Thank you very much. After this. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second and the remaining part of the program for today. Without further delay, please allow me to introduce our speaker for the day, Mr. Leong Weng Choong, Chief Business Officer, Credit Guarantee Corporation Malaysia Berhad, CGC. Mr. Leong Weng Choong oversees the overall supervision of development and implementation of business and marketing strategies. He also leads the development of the client management model and manages CGC's distribution network. He possesses an approximate 22 years of working experience in the financial industry, having worked for OCBC Bank Berhad and Hong Leong Bank Berhad. His topic for today is Unleashing MSMEs' Potential to Scale Up. Please put your hands together for Mr. Leong Weng Choong.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to say thank you to MIM for inviting me to this event. This is my first physical event after the MCO, so really pleased to be out here, and again, just want to say, just now when the people presented the certificates, all that is very nice to see Keluarga Malaysia. We see all different races and diversity and all that. So I guess this is one of the things that has actually, the diversity has actually been one of the things that has actually kept Malaysia resilient during this COVID period. All right. So without further ado, let me just share with you a little bit about CGC as well as the topic about unleashing MSMEs' potential to scale up. Maybe as a start, I would actually share with you what is CGC. Many people may or may not heard of CGC, but let me just share this with everybody. CGC has been set up since 1972. It is actually a subsidiary of the Central Bank of Malaysia, which is Bank Negara Malaysia. Okay, Bank Negara owns 78.6% of the shareholding, and the rest of the banks actually own the balance of it. So when we started in 1972, the business model was very simple. A lot of the SMEs, when they go to the bank, they were, before that I wanted to highlight, I'm quite pleased with what you can see from this signboard. You can see the word MSMEs there. A lot of people use the word SMEs without the M over there. But just to highlight to you, the M over there, the MSMEs, the M over there is really very crucial to our country and to the whole entire Malaysian ecosystem. Why? Is because if you look at the registered SMEs in Malaysia, it's almost about 1/1,000,000 of them. And out of this 1/1,000,000 of registered SMEs, registered with SSM, 80% of them are M, which is micro in nature. So the rest of them, 20% are small SMEs, and the balance are the bigger or the medium as well as the large SMEs. So if you see many times, you'll see the word just SMEs. But actually, the true word should be MSMEs, which is the micro SMEs together in this whole ecosystem. All right, so as like what I was saying, in 1972, since then, a lot of SMEs would want to go to the bank and borrow money, okay? Would want to borrow money. And what they will normally do at the bank, the two questions that the bank will always ask is that, do you have any collateral to pledge, okay? Or are you personally net worth, your personal net worth strong enough? The chances are, because a lot of SMEs are just starting out, they would not have any collateral, means house or property to pledge, or they will not have personal net worth, which means like fixed deposit or any of their, any type of collateral to pledge. So generally speaking, the bank being also a custodian to depositors, they need to make sure that the deposits that they get, they lend out to good quality customers. So this is where CGC will come in, because most of these SMEs or MSMEs do not have any collateral, and this is where CGC will come in to guarantee these loans so that the banks will feel more comforted to lend to these SMEs. All right? So we've been doing this since 1972. We have actually assisted more than 350,000 customers and valued at 86.1 billion. Why you can see the word guarantee and financing there is because we also pivoted. We realized that since 1972, our business of just doing guarantees are not able to help out a lot of the SMEs. So we, like what Datuk Shahul also say about being relevant, we also realized that being relevant means that we need to pivot. So this is where in 2014, we have also pivoted, and we have also pivoted into direct financing. So many may not have known, but CGC do provide direct financing to SMEs. And our target segment is not to compete with the banks, but to complement the banks. All right. So what is the target segment that we complement the banks with? Is actually the startup segments. If you walk into a bank in 2014, during the period of 2014, you will realize that a lot of banks are not serving those newly startup SMEs. Okay. So because we felt that the banks are not doing that, we as a developmental financial institution, under the purview of Bank Negara, we took the opportunity to provide financing using Bank Negara's funds to this segment of SMEs. And we became like a catalyst. We showed to the banks that startup businesses are doable, are not highly NPL like what they thought it was, and you can actually make money. So we started this business, we started to provide Bismula financing, which is business mula, okay, in Malay. It's a Sharia compliant loan. We gave to startups, and since then, we have noticed that even banks have now started to provide lending to these startups, And what we do is that we, in return, continue to do it because it's still not enough. We will then, for the bank side, we will then provide the guarantees to these banks for this segment. All right. So we have pivoted in many ways in our businesses because, like all businesses, we realize that being almost 50 years in business, you need to continuously make yourself relevant. So from the guarantee business, we have moved into direct financing. And after that, we have also gone into the digital business, which is beyond guarantee, this MSME business. I will speak a little bit about this beyond guarantee business after this, but the key topic that we wanted to talk about is actually back to this unleashing MSMEs' potential to scale up, all right? So being in the financial industries most of the time, I will speak more in terms of the banking side so that people may get to learn a little bit more because I'm biased towards the funding side, so I would know more about it, so I will talk more about it, okay? So in CGC, we do work with all the banks and we do talk to SMEs, like because I do direct financing, and we felt that one of the key things that MSMEs have difficulties in is three major components. This is what I see from our point of view in CGC, which is funding, digitalization, as well as market access. These are the three key things that we notice about from our interactions with the banks as well as with the SMEs. Funding has all the time been a major issue with SMEs is because I believe a lot of the SMEs that we have, mainly because they are micro in nature and small, have the tendency to be having a lower financial literacy rate in terms of understanding financials. And that has made them having an issue into getting access to financing. To be very fair, I think Malaysia has got a full financial ecosystem which is even better than many, many other countries in the Southeast Asia, as well as in Asia. Let me explain to you why I said that. But somehow, the SMEs are still not able to get financing. Let me share with you why I said that. If you look at Malaysia, we have got the conventional banks, we have got the Islamic banks, we have got the developmental financial institution, which is all under the purview of Bank Negara. Besides that, we have got the SC, which has actually given out license to P2P, peer-to-peer lending, equity crowdfunding, all right? Besides that, we also have government agencies giving out loans and grants. Besides that, we also have the Home Ministry giving out credit license to legalize credit companies, which are the good ones. I'm not talking about the Alongs, but I'm talking about the real ones like Aeon Credit, Hapsing Credit, and many others. So if you look at the whole entire financial ecosystem of Malaysia, it is actually very holistic. And next year, we are going to have the digital banks into the whole financial ecosystem. So if you look at it, I truly feel that Malaysia has got the whole spectrum of lending for the SMEs. And I, being a chief business officer, when I talk to all the division heads of business banking, heads of all the banks or whatsoever, they will tell you that every year the target gets higher, which means that everybody needs to provide lending to SMEs. So there is no reason why the SMEs cannot get financing. It's only maybe they do not know how to get it, or maybe because of financial literacy, or maybe sometimes SMEs are too pampered in a way. They must put in a little bit of a trouble to go and look for it themselves. So there is a lot of assistance given out by the government as well as private institutions to help them out. So the other part that I see about digitalization for these MSMEs is that when we speak a lot about COVID, okay, COVID, and we have learned a lot from it and all that. But to me personally, I felt that COVID was just a acceleration to competition. And why I said that was even before COVID, we can see actually a lot of businesses were having trouble. Some of the retail businesses and all that were having trouble. Why? It's because of digitalization. You can see the likes of many countries, the country's products and services from many other countries in Malaysia. If you look at the likes of Shopee, Lazada, all these products and services, you could actually, within days, you could actually have these products, which digitalization has actually made it that possible, in terms of number of days and all that. So it has a double-edged sword for digitalization. It means it is good that we have digitalization. It means also that the SMEs has to compete in more open market. So the market that they are in is not just no longer in Malaysia, but an open market which is throughout whole Malaysia. So again, this is where financial literacy is important, because you need to learn about what is your cost, what is your profit, how do you make profit, how do you become sustainable and all that. So it is important for the SMEs to learn about financial literacy in all this aspect. And the next thing is also about market access. There are many SMEs which I find very good at selling what they are selling, but they can only do it at their own premise. And if you ask them to sell a bit more, they will tell you that, oh, I cannot cope, I have got a lot of issues about coping, I have got a lot of issues about how do I sell more, how do I market more and all that. So this is also another issue with market access. And to be very frank, I think there is a lot of need to learn, and like what Datuk Shahul just now mentioned also, it's all about knowledge. There is a lot of need to learn about how do you digitalize your market, how do you become more competitive, how do you lower down your costs, where do you find the lowest cost. When you digitalize also, you must know what are the things that you need to digitalize on, what are your priorities, because I think with this COVID, many of the SMEs have actually taken out their own savings to retain their businesses, so they will find that they have got cash flow issues and all that. So we noticed that a lot of SMEs right now, when you ask them about digitalization and all that, they will tell you that at the moment we just need to cari makan for that day itself. We don't even have time to digitalize and all that. We don't have time to also go for courses. We don't have time for training, because most of the time it's just about running the business and getting it going. So that is very short-term in nature, I look at it. You really need to plan. I think a lot of good business entrepreneurs need to really plan well, and that's where I think the leadership and all those things will be important. All right, so it is crucial to look at how you plan your resources, as well as we always put it to three parts: people, your process, and your technology. How do you plan for all these things to make sure that your company runs well? All right. So let me go into a little bit about CGC, then I'll come back to about the SMEs again, because I think I always believe in giving realistic type of experience for you guys, for you to understand a little bit more. So like what I said is that many of the SMEs, we hear from the SMEs about what is their pain points, and that's why we as a developmental financial institution pivoted. So this is where from a guarantee business, we move into direct financing and subsequently into beyond guarantee. So I would also urge the SMEs out there that consumers' appetite, consumers' experience keeps changing. So you really need to be clear about what is their needs. People who are in cafe, restaurant businesses, 78% of our SMEs are actually in the retail businesses. So a lot of them are in the retail business. So we need to actually understand what are the needs of the customers and all that. So similar to us, we also need to understand. So this is where we also move into Beyond Guarantee, whereby we have actually came up with a platform to assist SMEs in terms of their lending. So we call it iMSME, www.imsme.com.my. This is somewhat like a Trivago website, whereby if any SMEs have a hard time looking for loans, they can actually come into this website and all the banks are in there and key in your criteria. What are the criteria that you have? And we will match it to the banks. So at the moment, it's a referral platform. It will take 2 days for the banks to contact you. But as soon as we fully digitalize this platform, within minutes, you will actually get an approval from the banks. Okay? The other thing that we are doing is developmental program. This is where we realize that a lot of SMEs, especially the startup, needs a lot of hand-holding. Okay? Don't be shy for startups to come to SME Corp, MDEC and all that to ask for hand-holding. Is because we realize that what we realize is that when you take a loan, generally speaking, it's the second and the third year that a loan will turn NPL. This is on a general basis. It's why? Because the customers are not sustainable. Okay? So it's very important to remain sustainable. And to remain sustainable, you really need to have plans. You can't go into a business just saying that I want to do a business, you can just do a business. You need to plan properly, think about what you really want for your businesses. All right? And last but not least, and this CGC developmental program is really to help the customers to be sustainable. We hold the hands of our customers, our existing customers, so that they become sustainable. The last but not least is this MyKMP. This is a program that we launched in 2019. And I think this is also another important milestone in the financial ecosystem, is that Bank Negara has said to all the banks that when a loan gets rejected, you need to tell the SMEs why your loan has been rejected. I think that is also very important, because if you know why your loan has been rejected, you will have a chance to go back into the legal financial ecosystem to get financing again. Most of the time, last time, you hear the banks highlighting to you that your loan has been rejected. This is due to management's decision. And for the SMEs, you will never know why your loan has been rejected, and you will never be able to know why, and you will be so frustrated that you will tend to go to maybe the illegal means to get your financing. So right now, if you go to any banks, it is an obligation of the banks to highlight to you that, okay, maybe your annual report is not showing negative net worth, or maybe your management team is not strong, or something of that sort, and they will actually highlight to you so that you could actually, within maybe months or within a year, could actually tweak your weaknesses so that you can actually get better at what you're doing. All right? So, like what I said, we have also gone into digitalization to be relevant. We started this platform in 2018, okay, and since then we have got 4,600 approvals worth 460 million. 2.2 million has came into the website, and we have a registration of up to 50,000. So something to share with you from what I've learned is that it costs a lot to do digital marketing. Okay, seriously, it costs a lot for us to do digital marketing. So when we talk about digital marketing and all that, just to highlight to you, it costs a lot. So we really need to understand about what is the target segment we want to do, how do we want to do it, so that we are very clear how we want to use our money properly. So for us to achieve this, it really costs, when it comes to awareness and all that, it really costs us a lot of money to do this, but the intentions were clear. We wanted to help the SMEs, and many of the SMEs were being assisted, about 4,600. So my feel is that we talk about digital marketing and all that. I think we really need to be very clear, how do we want to run digital marketing? I am one person, I mean, in digital marketing itself, there is many tools that you can use and all that, like Facebook and all that. So be clear about how you want to use your money. Be clear about your pocket, how deep is your pocket, okay, or how much money do you have to spend, so that you know what are the cheaper tools that you can use for digital marketing and what are the more expensive tools that you can use for digital marketing and all that. Right? So like what I said just now about the advisory services is that if you look at the advisory services, we have actually put it into two components. It is the financial advisory as well as the market. So I've spent a bit of time talking about financial literacy. I think it's very important that people know about financial literacy, and I do hope that MIM as well as HRD Corp could actually do so much more to educate our SMEs in terms of financial advisory. I think that is very key, because things like what is the difference between a flat rate, what is the difference between an effective rate. Sometimes you can hear the Alongs talking about 1.2%. It sounds very cheap. 1.5%. It sounds very cheap. But is it effective rate? Is it flat rate? Is it per annum? Is it per day? All these things are very important. So it is really very important for the SMEs to understand about financial literacy. And besides understanding about financial literacy, it's also about the market that you want to go into. How competitive is the market that you are in? How big is your market share? Are you going in there to take market share? Are you going there to maintain your share? What are you going to do with the market? So it is a lot of things about this that we really need to learn. And for me, in CGC, we also have to learn about these things too. All right. So it's not just about the SMEs and also about us. Okay. This is our branch network. In case that many of you do not know CGC, we have got 16 branch network throughout Malaysia. So you could come into our network, you could come into our branches to get any financial advisory. We do have, or we are still working with Bank Negara together with all the banks in terms of the financing available for all the SMEs. I think if any of you have not heard, there's this product called TRRF. If it's called Targeted Recovery and Relief Facility. It is one of the cheapest loan to provide for the SMEs right now. It is at 3.5% per annum. If you need any financing for working capital as well as for asset acquisition, you could actually go to the banks and to ask for this. It's unsecured, all right? The banks would actually, just to share with you what are the requirements from the bank, the banks would need your annual audited accounts. But many banks do realize right now that for the last few years, your business has been affected, so your annual reports may show negative losses, may show losses and all that. But nevertheless, the banks have also pivoted. To look at bank statements and all that. So they are not just looking at annual reports, they are also looking at bank statements. And so if your business is running for the last few months, they would actually use your cash flow from the bank statements to lend to you. So the maximum loan is at 500,000, all right? So at 3.5%, it is good time to take this opportunity to really go and take some financing. The other thing I wanted to highlight about your business model that you have is that you need to be very clear about whether do you want it to go into debt financing or equity financing. Okay? I think people need to be very clear so that you know where to look for so-called financing. Let me share with you the difference between debt financing and equity financing. Debt financing generally means that if you take a loan, debt financing is mainly a loans. If you take a loan, chances are that the bank would require you to pay back in the installment the following month. Okay, that is debt financing. So please be very clear about your business model. If you are doing some gig type of economy type of things, whereby you want to set up a platform, whereby you know that the money doesn't come immediately, it needs 1 or 2 years, or you're doing certain things that you know that you cannot pay within the following month, please look at doing equity type of financing. Equity type of financing means bringing in shareholders into your company. All right? Do not be shy about bringing in shareholders or bringing in money. You have a few ways. You can actually go through the equity crowdfunding, which is licensed by the Securities Commission. They have, I think, 5 to 6 equity crowdfunding. So you need to be very clear about your business model. And when you go to a bank, the bank is very clear one. When you want to take a loan from us, we want to make sure that when we calculate your debt service ratio, when we calculate this and that, you are able to repay us the following month. So it is very important to look at that, okay, and to ensure that you are clear between equity type of financing as well as debt financing. All right. The other thing is that a lot of SMEs also have this idea about, I need to roll my money, so I shouldn't pay the installment. I may as well keep the money, roll with the money. I can take up the money, maybe buy more resources and all that. Please be very clear that those good old times whereby the banks do not have interface with each other has been gone. We do have CCRIS as well as CTOS, mainly on CCRIS, to check the repayment capacity of the SMEs and all that. So what happens is that when the banks looks at the CCRIS and all that, it's actually to see your behavior, all right? Your behavior as an SME, whether are you a good pay master or not. It is not that they have any feelings towards you or anything. It's just that when they look at the CCRIS, and it's a 1-year tenure that they will show, and during this tenure, they will be able to see whether the loans that you have you been paying promptly or not. And the banks will want to use that to see what type of characteristic are you. Are you the type when the loan falls due, you'll pay, or you are the type of character that you are not a good paymaster? So these are the tools that the banks will actually use to look at you. And obviously, I'm sure you as a person, if you want to lend money out to somebody, you will also want to assess the character of the person that you are lending out to. So what more, being a bank, whereby the depositors are actually depositing monies into the banks. So they have got the so-called responsibility to ensure that these loans are being repaid. All right. So I guess this is a little bit about my journey, as well as how I think now we are out of this, we are coming out of this pandemic. We are not out of the woods yet, coming out of it. I think funding is really important. Getting ready to get funding is also important. Planning for it, I think, is also important. So from where I come from, I think it's really important for you all to plan. Be clear about what are your needs. Okay, don't over gear yourself if possible. All right, digitalize, but be very clear that the digital world makes it more competitive. All right, be clear about your priorities of digitalization, because it is a very competitive world out there. We need to be very clear, and I do believe that there are many Malaysians who have done well in the digital world. Recently, I saw Kasim. All right, a bunch of young guys, I know them also. They have gone into a unicorn status, and I think there are many more. So I think Malaysia, being where we are with our diverse culture and all that, I think we can do well, and we will do well. And look at us. I think wearing masks is not an issue. Even in some countries, wearing masks is also an issue. So let's challenge ourselves. I think we really need to think out of the box sometimes, and think of new ways of doing businesses. I think there are many new things that we can think of, and I do urge MIM also to try to come up with courses to make people think out of the box. I think Malaysians, being Malaysians, many of us are not able to speak out. I think able to speak out and talk properly, I think is also very important. I'm also learning how to do public speaking better. So I hope that you guys have a good day ahead. I'm willing to answer any questions when there's time available on anything to do with financing or funding. All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leong, for the insightful information on CGC's journey and being a catalyst to support the startups. I've taken away a few points, and thank you for sharing your expert advice on financial implications and understanding financial literacy. 16 branches nationwide, but I noticed Penang was not in there. And because I hail from Penang, Mr. Leong, I will have a personal discussion separately. And without further ado, I'm going to leave that to the panelists later. And please allow me to introduce our second speaker for the day, Mr. Berhad Yap, Malaysia Financial Services and Private Client Services leader and partner of EY. He was the indirect tax leader within EY that led the GST implementation in Malaysia. He has been actively involved in compliance, regulatory, and consultancy engagements for Malaysian financial institutions together with the entrepreneurs and their business enterprise. His experience includes conducting tax due diligence, tax documentation review and tax audits, tax training, indirect tax planning and advisory, applications for license, incentives, and tax exemptions. His topic for today is carving out a suitable ecosystem to accelerate MSMEs growth. Please put your hands together for Mr. Berhad Yap.
Everyone, just like Mr. Leong, very happy to be here. And also thank you, MIM, for inviting Ernst & Young and myself here to be sharing our views on this one. You're right, this is my first webinar, first face-to-face live webinar, or seminar, I should call it, not webinar anymore, after 2 years. After getting this invite last week from MIM, I've got another one on Thursday. So certainly, I think everybody's coming out of their, their home to be with us. What I wanted to share today, being myself from an accounting firm, I thought that with the title today that we have, let me share with you from a governance and from a business practice perspective. Mr. Leong shared one of the part in terms of financing and liquidity. That's one of the points that we're also going to be sharing. But overall context, this is what I thought we were going to cover. So very quickly, I thought of running through in terms of what the SMEs are, what are the challenges that you're going to be facing or you are facing actually at the moment, what kind of initiatives that have been seen in the pandemic situation, and where we think we should be better off or we should get more opportunities coming out of the post-pandemic. And then at the end of the day, what do you expect out of the 2022 budget as well, because it was just announced on the 29th of October. Okay? So, I don't need to go through in that detail. Dr. Shahul and every speaker before me have already emphasized that, SME, MSME today is the largest employer in town. There's no doubt about it. You're the biggest contributor to the economy as well. In terms of the GDP growth as well, you are there. And obviously, export opportunities are always going to be there. But I guess the point here I wanted to share is that while you play a very important and big role here, where is the overall facilitator? Where is the overall system framework that you can go and reach out to? I think that's the biggest challenge. And we'll share that more during the panel discussion. But my personal view is that while you are playing a very important role in the overall Malaysian economy, we hope to see more in terms of support, more in terms of government policies, government framework coming in. And hopefully the emphasis that you hear from MIM, even from HRD Corp and everything, the initiative and the growth from the government focus is going to be there. Why I say this is also because when you look at the sectors that MSME participate a lot of, Mr. Leong put it correctly, services is actually going to be the main and top industry. It across the entire country where we are. But what I want to emphasize here is that you look at the various sectors that the MSME play today in services, manufacturing, construction, agriculture, and even into mining and acquiring. We got this data, and I was quite surprised as well. We played an important role. But the point here is that we've got various different government agencies. We've got various different, as Mr. Leong put it, various banks, various kind of DFI focusing on different sectors. How do you then put yourself in your capacity, in your shoes of an entrepreneur? Where do we reach out to? Because we've got various government agencies, various sectors to go. And I guess the confusion moving forward is there an opportunity for the government agency and everything to consolidate it to be one that is going to be very much giving priority to MSME? We know MIDA, BT all focus on FDI and large conglomerate, big organizations that can really take Malaysia to the next step, right? But if you look at MSME together as one, you can do the same as well. And the question then is, with these various sectors you play in, how do you then want to leverage and work with the government agencies or work with organizations like HRD Corp, MIM, in order to put yourself into the next tier? And I think that's the part that each one of us, like Mr. Leong said also, think out of the box a bit in terms of where we want to reach out, who do we want to reach out, and the kind of policies and governance that you want to be in place to support your business. Yeah? I put here some of the key challenges that you face. Obviously, the first one is no-brainer because of pandemic and everything in terms of movement control and travel restrictions. But that leads to then the next 5 issues that we have. No doubt, because of the pandemic and everything, challenges is there, and that have actually directly impacting in terms of the cost of doing business. Cost of doing business have gone up solely because of the fact that demand has dropped. When demand drops in normal economics, then the supply of it is also going to drop. And when that comes into it, pricing plays a very important part. And I guess the last bit, I'm going to jump to number 6, tying back to the increasing raw materials and costs, is because we have also over-reliance of some of the importations that we have coming from overseas. And that supply chain, I think, changed our mindset during pandemic, because we need to think about how do we then able to leverage on the Malaysian ecosystem to be able to be more sustainable on our own. In the last 2 years' budget, the government has come out and tried to promote the large GLCs and large government Malaysian corporations to use Malaysian vendors and to create the vendor system for our own Malaysian MSME. And I think that's a great move. The question then is obviously how effective is the implementation, and how do we then make sure that the priority is also given to the Malaysian MSME? So I always put the raw materials, the increasing cost, can that be managed and maintained in terms better if we can actually have more local supply and more MSME supporting the whole ecosystem? We talk a lot, and I'm not going to go into much detail, we talk a lot about having the need to adopt technology and digitalization. We find that challenging, and we find that emphasis is more and more during the pandemic. But how much of the leverage on digitalization and technology that each one of us have adopted, that we take a step back and evaluate our own and say the effectiveness of it, the effectiveness of going through this is very important. Why? Is because it's not just because we want to overcome the situation during the pandemic, but it's the sustainability of our business moving forward. The future actually lies on this as well. And we talk about it at the point of how much value do we put into it that goes to the next point. How do we then make sure that our people, our human capital, our talent is able to absorb it? There's always going to be MSME having to make sure that they balance the books to make sure that they can sustain from a financial profitability perspective, vis-a-vis spending and investing today on digital and technology for that purpose. But then comes the next point as well as, is it a cheaper way if we continue to do the business that we are today, solely based on, for instance, a lot of the industries today are relying a lot on foreign workers. Foreign labor maybe could be a cheaper way to still continue to be sustainable from a profitability and economic perspective, but you need to think about the long term as to how would that benefit you in the future. And I guess the number 5 ties it all. It's all about dollars and cents. How much money do we want to spend today for the future? How much money do we, as we talk about in terms of all the other bankers and everything, put it into it? And what are the challenges for us to make sure that when we look at funding and we look at financing, right, is it more for sustaining our business today vis-a-vis to the long-term future? And I guess there's no right or wrong answer to it. It's a journey for us to go through it. It's a time where then we need to reflect what becomes our priority in our business. For the micro enterprises, their objective, their priority is going to be different for a much more medium and large scale SME. Because at the end of the day, the way we do our business, the way we operate in, the environment is going to be different. But I would say that in the long run, everyone will come together with that same objective, because you can't deny that the technology and digital will be the future of how the way we run our business. Either we do it now or we're going to be left behind. The other part as well is, will you be able to change? Will our people be convinced enough to change? There's this term, how do you teach old dogs new tricks, right? At the end of the day, not only the fact that you spend money on it, how do we then adopt and change it? Because at the end of the day, when large organizations, the GLCs, when they are tender contracts, they put out tenders and everything, they use digital. Are we able to participate in it? Are we able to go along with the trend of moving forward? We talk about even financing. How do we then make sure that our data and everything in the system is ready to support us in order for us to make sure that we can secure the right financing at the end of the day? So a lot of it, I would say, except for number 1, all 5 of it is going to be inherent, and it's going to be part and parcel of the way we're going to do our business and the way we think of our future for our organization. The next 2 slides, I just want to share very briefly. The government agencies have provided a lot of support. The question is, you look at all this support, it comes from various sectors, comes from various government agencies with different focus. When we talk about during the pandemic, it's about making sure that the livelihood continues to be there. Even in our firm itself, we talk about saving lives, saving jobs, which means that how do we make sure that as an entrepreneur, we take care of people, we take care of it. So there were some funds available to make sure that we support, it's given to the SMSE to support making sure that the livelihood and the people continue to be able to survive. There's a lot of focus grants, focus support, financial support given to it as well. But I think the point here is that, do you want, any one of y'all here, do you know which government agency to reach out to? It's great when you see the media, the government announces this. Do you have a platform for you to be comfortably to go and reach out to make sure that you are able to know who to reach out to? What are the protocols? What are the administrative requirements? How are the process to get all this across? And I think that's the biggest part here, is the dissemination of the information and the process to reach out to the people on the street, organizations like y'all working on it. How do you then make sure that the implementation is effective? So I've always shared that, I'm not shy about it. I've always shared with the government agency, especially to MOF, the implementation part is the one that's going to be very much focused by a lot of us, because that's, to be honest, very lacking. We did a bit of a survey. I think if you look at it, some of the initiatives over the last 18 months have been very welcomed by the organizations, and you can see it's been taken up fully on that basis. The tourism one, obviously, you look at it, it's not going to be there, because I think tourism has suffered. There's no tourists coming in and everything, both local and overseas. But the participants, the players in the tourism industry, they're not aware that there's a lot of support the government is trying to give it to them. They are very much now at the moment have refocused, rechanged their business strategy and to do different things. But the mere fact that if you look at it, 11% have actually participated in it, which means that there's a lot of support which was actually very good, objectively targeted for them, but unfortunately they didn't reach out to them in time, or even until today, they're not aware of it. So this is one clear example. I guess when you have the right targeted focus sectors and participant in it, they know it's 100% taken up. But unfortunately, if you look on the last one, there's still a lot of travel agencies or travel-related organizations that are suffering, but they're not aware that this support are available. It goes back to what I wanted to share in terms of what we need to look at in the future for a conducive ecosystem. And it ties back to the earlier part that I talked about. Very important, both the private and the public sector has to work together. And there's no doubt about it. It is very important that we continue to appreciate and acknowledge the support from the government, whether through grants, whether through incentives, or even through having the right SOPs and procedures to facilitate doing business more efficiently in this country. I can't emphasize more. Human capital has always been the fact that we are very challenged in retaining our talent. We are very challenged in terms of making sure, while we talk about having invest to spend time with our people, grow them, groom them, give them the right skills and everything, how do we retain them? How do we not lose them, number one, to even other competitors, or even to across our neighboring country, Singapore? And that's the biggest, suction of talent, because the mere fact that if we don't continue to work towards it, obviously the other countries which can pay more in terms of dollars and cents will always going to squeeze our talent and squeeze them out of this country. And the next part, if you move on to the next thing, is to talk about it in terms of financing solutions. There are, like you said, there are a lot here in these spaces. I think for MSME, while it's being challenging to present the right business case, the right business model that you have to banks, but there's a lot of DFIs out there, and DFIs are incorporated with the specific intention to grow and support the MSME. Whether you're in the agriculture sector, you're in the construction or business model, or even manufacturing, there are the various DFIs that will be able to support. And we talk about it, digital bank, P2P lending, all these are new innovative structures that will be coming out, and now we're very, very willing to support the market that is not catered by the commercial banks today. So think about it, there is always it's always the biggest challenge is, are you bold enough to take the financing, to take the next step forward for your investment? And that's the part that I can't answer for you. I can give you the platform, I can give you and share with you, but I guess that's the entrepreneur decision that you need to make on your own in order to facilitate how you want to see your business move towards and growing in the future. I think the next one is knowledge sharing. In specific industries and associations, industries that you're in, there's a lot of associations that will bring together the talented people, the right structures, the right support from the banks, the organizations, the GLCs that will share it. But I guess it's the question to all of us here is there a platform that you can work together with your peers in the micro businesses, your peers in the SMEs, because the knowledge sharing, the experience sharing is going to be very important. Don't feel shy in terms of sharing your trade secrets. We're not talking about the trade secrets in terms of your business. It's sharing your experience to move forward and all of us to grow together. Banks itself has got, I work a lot with the associations of banks in Malaysia. They're very happy. They're very colluded together as one to grow it, because they make sure that as one industry, they are very strong in the voice, because the voice then is very powerful when you want to reach out to the government agency. You want your thoughts and everything to be there. So I don't know where that is, but I think there is a need to make sure that the platform for the MSME is being taken care of. And I guess the last one is the robust government policies. While I've always emphasized the initiatives is good, but the implementation, the effectiveness of carrying out the duties by the respective government agencies, that's going to be very important. And that's the key for all of us, not just you and me, for all of us to be able to succeed. So the last couple of slides I wanted to share, very simple. It's actually what has the government looked into in terms of initiatives. Again, just on very simple, on the 29th of October, the budget 2022, if you look at it, there's various type of grants, financing available, ranging from, if I quickly go on to it, there's digitalization grant, there's microfinancing there, there's also automation, there's also different types of support from startups to also in terms of recovery itself. So the government appreciates the situation you're in. The initiatives are there, so hopefully you will be able to leverage on it. You should be able to participate and enjoy it. Again, my point has always been, let's make sure that they are able to support us the right way, effective communication and effective dissemination of all this data and information to all of us. Last one, very unfortunately, when we talk about tax incentives, if I put this, there's only one slide I can share with you in MSME. The question then is MOF also taking an initiative in terms of making sure that moving forward, a lot more proposals comes out from MOF to the MSME. And vice versa, MOF can only come up with proposals for y'all if you have a conglomerate of group together association that can then be your voice to the MOF, to the other government agencies, not just purely MOF. So if you look at it, to me, it's nothing big deal. They know cash flow is an issue, therefore they have decided to defer income tax payment for MSME until 30th June 2022, which means that for the 6 months, you don't need to pay income tax installment scheme. But it doesn't mean you are given exemption for 6 months. You still need to pay your tax, but you need to pay it over the next 6 months or when you file the tax return. So you need to plan your cash flow for that perspective. They know the challenges of MSME coming into being incorporated and starting their business operations. So they've also given you some form of grants as well and tax rebates. I guess the last bit is you look at your current situation. How do you want to grow moving forward? You've learned, you've got your experience from the pandemic, the challenges that you face with pandemic. Mr. Leong talked about whether you need to bring in new equity partner, new joint venture partner, whether you need to merge and build yourself into a bigger organization, share the cake with another peer of your in your industry, and you grow from that because size does matter. And moving forward with it, they've also given you exemptions, stamp duty and also RPGT exemptions for restructuring during this kind of challenging times. Yeah. So the last bit I just wanted to cover, we talk about technology and digitalization. We talk about the fact that you appreciate and you know it. The question is how much you want to spend and move forward with it. I talk about once technology comes into it, you need to reskill your people. You need to make sure that they are ready to adopt it, they're ready to absorb it. Plus the other part is the cost of maintaining automation and technology, right, is also not cheap. Do you want to build it in-house, the maintenance, or do you want to outsource it to third parties to be able to support you? I talk about the primary spokesperson and regulator. You need that. I think I don't see it today, to be honest. I don't see it in the MSME sector. You need that one voice to be able to share with you on that bit. I intentionally put ESG, not because I'm challenging the MSME to be more thinking of environmental and the social, but more from a governance perspective. I put that in place is because government around the world today are placing a lot on governance framework. That's going to be very important is because they now make it in foreign countries, in a matured framework, they make it as a compulsory that you show how much of your governance policy are in place within your organization. I'm not asking for a full-fledged one. I'm making sure that you have policies in place to make sure you can move forward with it. GLCs, in the 2022 budget, GLCs who's going to participate in government tender contracts, or if you're going to participate in contracts or tenders issued by GLC, moving forward, you need to work with Inland Revenue to be able to make sure that you have this so-called tax governance certificate that you'll be able to share and put it into your submission package for your tender and for your and to participate in RFPs. So that's how it's going to start, because the government initiative is going to be there to make sure that they placed it on large organizations. But I can see within the next 3 to 5 years, the large organizations, the MNCs, the GLCs, will make it maybe as a compulsory or as a best practice that if you share this with us, your governance framework that you have and how you are doing your business, we will then give you a tick, or you have some additional points in terms of evaluating your tendering contracts. So I'm sharing that's the trend moving forward, and hopefully you think about it as well. I know a lot of us are being challenged today thinking about the limited funds and the liquidity that we have to try to survive, to be able to survive through this pandemic. But hopefully you think about this. This is a trend moving forward. I'm not, like I said, I'm not asking you to focus on trying to be as green as possible or socially acceptable, because that's going to be expensive. It's not compulsory yet. But I think governance is the one that's going to be the next trend coming forward, because the government agencies, the MOF today have started it, and I can see that going to be the next part moving forward. So with that, thank you very much. Thank you to MIM again for having EY and me here. Happy to take questions and have a healthy panel discussion later. So thank you, everybody. Have a good day ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yap. Wonderful insights, and we kept hearing a lot about effectiveness of adoption of technology and digitalization, and more importantly, sustainability. I'm not going to take too much time because we've got the final speaker, and please allow me to introduce Mr. Jeevan Raju, Country Head Malaysia for Tata Consultancy Services. He joined TCS several years ago and has worked in various capacities across the organization, bringing more than 25 years of techno-business leadership and executive management experience to his role. He manages corporate direction and strategy, facilitating company activity in consulting, sales, marketing, and business partnership. Under Jeevan's leadership, TCS has increased market share and revenue to become the top 5 consulting companies in Malaysia, with close to 1,200 consultants working across Malaysian projects. Jeevan's pioneered a policy of agile at workplace, interacting with the project delivery to have a pulse on all implemented programs. He is appointed by the Malaysian government as a member of the G2G CEO Forum between India and Malaysia. He is also a council member of Malaysia-India Business Council, a founding member of Seed Lab.my, which is a first ever incubator program in Malaysia to create social enterprise to address youth unemployment. His topic for today is effective digital leadership to spearhead a successful digital transformation. Kindly put your hands together to welcome Mr. Jeevan Raju. Hi.
Down there. Which is the top one? Okay. Very good morning. Selamat pagi. Selamat sejahtera to fellow friends, fellow colleagues, fellow peers in the industry. Firstly, I must thank MIM for inviting me to share my thoughts on this particular topic. And more importantly, I think today we have a lot of distinguished speakers who shared a lot of message today, and I think a lot of salient points that was shared with all of you. I think there's probably another 100 over people watching this virtually. It's a tough time, it's a trying time, but it's also a dawn of a new way of working and way of living. I think a lot of my friends down here today from EY as well as CGC has really given a lot of data points of what's happening in the country. what are the government initiatives that the government is really pushing very hard, and also what the micro SMEs need to do to be relevant in the marketplace in the coming ways. I think one thing we started, I mean, this whole pandemic started probably a year and a half ago, and we always thought it was a China problem. It's not going to affect us, it's a China problem. Somehow we'll figure it out, life will go on as normal. But all and behold, we realized it's not really a China problem. It has become a global problem. It's become an America problem. It has become a Europe problem. It's become an India problem. And it's also become a Malaysia problem. So nobody gave us a pre-warning that this pandemic is going to come. No analysts predicted this. No fortune teller even told us this about this. And it just came. And it came without any form of warning to many of us. It disrupted the way we do business. We disrupted the way we live our lives. It disrupted a whole slew of families who are dependent on micro SMEs for their livelihoods. And this really means that the age of disruption is now. And why I say the age of disruption is now is because the way we do business 5 years ago or 10 years ago has to change. The pandemic has also taught us that we are no more one entity. Malaysia is not a standalone country. We completely depend on the entire global supply chain. We completely depend on the ecosystem play that we have. And we as family units also realize that we're no more alone. We've got to think about the larger community at large. People putting out white flags in Malaysia. I've never seen that ever in Malaysia. White flags. I drive downtown, people waiting at traffic lights for food and handouts. I've never seen that in Malaysia in my entire life in Malaysia. So things have really changed. Things have also made us very, very humble about what we have. If you have family members and you have extended relations who are still around, that's a great blessing. And I think the pandemic has also made us realize that you need to start working as one. It's no more about you versus me. It's all about the oneness that we bring into this entire equation. And why I say that oneness is because that oneness is very important to our own survival, whether it's the micro SMEs, whether it's a large MNC like us. The oneness is going to be very key. This whole lot of partnership, ecosystem play. You need to work with your clients. You need to work with your competition, because there's no more about you yourself. You yourself will not survive. I think the pandemic has really brought about a whole lot of stew of services that has made us realize that you need an ecosystem play. So from TCS, I think during this pandemic, we looked hard within ourselves and we said, what do we really think as changes? We completely need to remorph our belief system. We have to build on belief with our own relevant organizations, with our own family members, and with our own clients. Building on belief was the theme that we came about how we can start transforming this new way of working, the new way of living, where all society are seen in a different light, where we collaborate much more cohesively as opposed to distinctively. That's the shift I think we've made over the last couple of months. I've seen that. What we also see from the world, we see few things happening in the world. This is, I think, many of us will agree, you'll see that people and customers of yours will suddenly move into mass personalization. Your customers are no more going to say, give me a standard fit-all model. Your consumer markets has completely changed. They're going to expect you to give a personalized. You go to Amazon, you get a personalized approach. You go to any other form of online services, you get a personalized approach. So your customer profile, who are going to be the youngsters of the world today and who's also using technology as a means of getting data, are going to expect this personalization. So the mass personalization you're going to see in all industries, especially more in the retail. If you're in the retail business, in your micro SMEs, think about mass personalization. How do you treat every of your customer unique in its own way? You're going to start saying that your customers are going to expect exponential value. It's no more about I buy $1, I give you a $1 worth of service, I want $1 worth of return in service. They're going to expect exponential value. Why? Because the digital economy allows you to get literally everything for free. Data, knowledge, podcasts, everything is literally for free. So whatever you put into the digital sphere, you need to make sure that it's exponential value to your customers. First, mass personalization, and I must give exponential value to my customers to be relevant, be it you're an SME, be it you're an MNC. Second, you're going to start leveraging ecosystem. And this is where I say the pandemic has really taught us about how we need to work together as one. We today, in different parts of Europe, we see retail outlets collaborating for supply chain distribution. Sainsbury versus Tesco versus Asda, they're doing it in UK today, where the entire supply chain is no more about Sainsbury supply chain and Asda supply chain or Tesco supply chain. It's all one supply chain. Why? Because they realize there is a need for collaboration. Why do I need to duplicate 5 different initiatives when we can combine as one and provide that as a supply chain? So you're going to see a lot of ecosystem plays. Telcos are going to not only provide bandwidth and services, they're going to start providing digital banking, they're going to provide a whole lot of hotel booking, they're going to provide a lot of technology solutions moving forward. So some of the telcos will even move into the energy space. Energy companies are moving into renewable space, the likes of Petronas and many of them, you've probably read about them. They're also making a shift. So entire ecosystem play is going to happen. If you're not in any form of ecosystem, create your ecosystem today, because that's the only way you can be relevant to your customers at large. The other thing is, I think is very interesting, is for an MNC and a lot of large organization, embracing risk is the most toughest thing. We've got governance structures, we've got a lot of that, which prevents us from being agile, which prevents us from taking what-if scenarios. What if we fail? What if this project fails? What is the consequences of it? But I think the new world is ready for failing fast and moving fast. If you fail, it's okay, learn the lesson and move on. So micro SMEs, don't be afraid to fail. Fail small, fail fast, learn your lesson, move on. We have a lot of great stories in Malaysia. Grab, for instance. Grab was not an all-around success. There were many failures, but the success were more than the failures. But by not trying, you're going to be sitting doing nothing, and you're going to be irrelevant soon to your customers as well as also to the marketplace. So these are the 4 tenets which we call Business 4.0, which has got mass personalization of services. Whether you're a bank, the banks now want to start providing, treat me as an individual. Don't treat me as a generic customer of yours. They want to start asking service providers to give me extra value. What more can you give me for free? Exponential value again. They're going to start asking, how can I buy my airline ticket from my telco? Is it possible? It will be possible. It has to be possible. How can I book my medical appointments through my telco company? Is it possible? Yes, it should be possible. So the ecosystem play is going to be becoming the gray areas, or the lines of differentiations are going to be gradually moving out and changing. Oops, something went on. Okay. So that we see as a big change. From our perspective, coupled with the fact that there's a lot of data is going to come out where you need to have a lot of intelligence happening, data mining is going on, agile delivery. That means no more you're going to do 12 months, 13 months project. 3 months. What can we do in 3 months? What can we do in the next 3 months? What can we do in the other 3 months? Agile delivery will be the mode of implementation. Automation. Any form of automation is much more welcome than what we have today. We are pushing for a lot of foreign laborers,
But if you go to Japan, Japan completely embraced automation because they realized they're not going to get foreign workers. They realized they're not going to get foreign workers. They can try and ask for it, but they're not going to get it. And so they embraced automation. And because of that, they are far more advanced in terms of automation compared to many of us. The entire manufacturing plant is run on automation because the scarcity of resources. And that scarcity of resources and the need for people is the greatest impetus where you start pushing innovation into your organization and your company. The other one is cloud. I think you've probably heard enough of that. Everyone's moving to cloud. Your Gmail is on cloud. Your Yahoo is on cloud. People ask me whether it's secure or not. I said it's as secure as it can be. The idea is because my first question is your Gmail secure? You don't know. It is as secure as you can be. Is your WhatsApp secure? The entire cabinet of Malaysia is run on WhatsApp. They have a cabinet minister WhatsApp group. So where they transmit a lot of highly confidential information in that WhatsApp. Is that secure? It is as secure as it's good for the cabinet ministers. I think it should be good for us. Yes, there are vulnerabilities. Yes, there are threats that you need to be aware. But the fact that you cannot move away from it, it's something that you need to embrace, take it, and move on with it. Only then you are able to clear and create a new business model for yourself, for the micro SMEs. The building block for sustainability. I want to just share a bit more. Sustainability is becoming a big topic since 18 months ago. I think it's been around for the long time. I think it's accelerated much more vigorously over the last 18 months. Why sustainability is important is because in Tata Group, everything we do, the founder has said is very clear. Business only exists because of the community. You don't exist alone without the community. You only exist, you only can make money, it's only because of the community. So sustainability, so we have what we call a circular economy. Whatever we make in Tata Group, we give back to the community. Yes, there's a profit-oriented program and governance to it, but there's also a whole lot of give back that we do. We run cancer hospitals, we run orphanages, we run Institute of Science. We do a whole lot of work in Malaysia in terms of sustainability. And why I say that is very important is because if at all you wanted to know what is the secret sauce for an organization to be existent for the 150 years, it is only because it was not about creating shareholder value, it is about creating stakeholder value. We always made sure that the community was the center of our focus as much as we made business. And that's the only secret sauce in Tata Group being around for 150 years. There are not many organizations in the world that we can say existed for 150 years. And we've grown. Today we employ 700,000 people globally. And that's the only reason we believe we've grown is because we constantly and consistently talk about sustainability to the community and what we do for them. So every organization, every micro SMEs, as much as you can from a capacity perspective, bring sustainability into your main table, a conversation with your staff, with your fellow shareholders, because no matter how big, you don't need to solve world hunger, but you can do something small. Whatever small you do, whatever something purposeful you do will make a difference in the community at large. So bring sustainability, and the only way to bring sustainability in any form of sustainable solution, there's always digital technology behind it. People are now trying to manage their energy management system. They want to start tracking their carbon emission. What is their carbon footprint, enterprise carbon footprint? All of that requires a digital framework, a digital solution. And that's where I keep saying it has to be agile, cloud-based, something that you can roll out very quickly. So bring sustainability into your main agenda as much as we think of audit is also a main agenda item for yourself. I just want to end about this program that we did. Many years ago, we've got 1,500 today in Malaysia. And we do a lot of work with a lot of GLC customers. And we were not happy with what we were doing. Why? Because we think we're not doing enough for the country. And we went to our customers and we went to knocking at all our customers in Malaysia and GLC and says, what can we do for the nation? what can we do for the nation? How can we help nation? And one of our customers came back to us and said, hey, youth unemployment is a big issue. Can we start incubating something on addressing youth unemployment from a social enterprise perspective, whereby we incubate social enterprises, and this social enterprise goes out and employ many youngsters and creates employment in the market. And it was an experiment. We never done this before. We've done it in India in a different scale, but we never done it in Malaysia. And we were not too sure how it's going to turn out. But we said we have to try. And we said because sustainability is a main agenda for us, and we're going to do that. So we came up with a program called Seed Lab, which incubates youngsters, about 50, 60 youngsters, to create startup in social enterprises. And today we've done cohort 1. We've got 3 startups, Teman, which you will see a video on, Food Lab, and Solve Next. Teman looks into companionship for elderly, and literally it's your Grab for elderly care, as well as getting the youngsters employed, the unemployed youngsters employed to be what they call a Temanian, to provide companionship. In the pandemic, a lot of elderly people, if you have elderly parents with you at home and all of that, you will realize that they've degraded tremendously, whether in terms of dementia, Alzheimer's, walking capability, all of that has really brought them down so badly during this pandemic. So they came up with a solution, and it's a phenomenal solution to address elderly parents' needs. They have the Temanians go and play chess, play games with elderly parents, so that it's 1-2 hours, and they get somebody external than their own family members coming talking to them, because none of their family members want to hear their story. Nobody wants to hear nobody wants to hear their parents' story, because you've heard it many times. But you can have a third-party person going and talking about it. They're so enlightened and delighted by it, and they want that whole service, and it's a fraction of fee. The other one was Food Lab. How do we get youngsters moving into the F&B business? How can they get? It's literally a co-working space for a kitchen where they can create food packages and then sort of sell it out. The third one was creating Solve Next, which is creating a freelance market space for youths of Malaysia. How can GLCs start tapping into freelance market, especially from youngsters, so that they don't need to have a whole HR process to recruit a graphic designer when they only need a graphic designer to do a particular assignment. So we created that also from a workspace. We're cracking the code with Petronas, and if we can crack the code with Petronas from a freelance market perspective, I think all GLCs will jump on board onto that. So these are stuff that we're trying to disrupt in the market. Like I said, the pandemic has really made us very much aware that we all one big family, and we need to collaborate more. We need to have an ecosystem play, and we hope that every micro SMEs are able to pick up a sustainable initiative that is close to their organization, no matter how small, no matter how big it is. Take it, drive it, and you see the amazing results unfolding itself. With that, thank you. So video. Okay. Do I play?
Hi everyone, I am Izzati Nasir, the co-founder and CEO of Teman Malaysia. Teman Malaysia is a social enterprise that provides care companionship for your loved ones by connecting them with the Temanian, our care companion. By booking an appointment, your family members will be matched with the Temanian. We offer 3 types of services: Teman Health Appointment, Teman Ziarah, a regular check-in of your family members' well-being, and Teman customized activities such as grocery shopping, doing hobbies together, and many more. The safety of your loved ones is our top priority. We ensure all our Temanians go through extensive selection process and training. On the day of service, our Temanian will come and meet your beloved ones, settle the errands, provide timely updates, and send them home safely.
Pertama kali, Umi ditemani oleh orang bukan anak Umi. sepanjang berjalan dengan puteri, Umi rasa macam Umi berjalan dengan anak Umi sendiri. Dan dia begitu membantu. Rasa sangat puas hati.
I feel so happy about the work done by the Taman Group. Based upon my own experiences and the success that I have achieved so far, I will recommend the Taman Group very strongly to anyone in my kind of a situation.
In this challenging time, we believe caring for each other is essential. We offer special packages for companies, an option to purchase hours of service redeemable by your employees. It's a unique way of supporting them, using their minds, and ultimately increasing their productivity. We want you to have a peace of mind, knowing your loved ones are in good hands. We are Taman Malaysia, your reliable care companion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jivan Raju, for sharing the inspiring video. Really heartwarming initiative for the elderly. So without further ado, we have now come to the panel discussion. I would like to call upon all three panelists to take their positions on stage. And this session will be moderated by our very own Suganti Subramaniam, Head of Program Management at the Malaysian Institute of Management. So if I can call upon Mr. Berhad, Mr. Leong Weng Choong, and Mr. Jivan Raju.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to moderate this panel session. You're almost at the tail end of the day. What I'd like to say is we are between wrap-up and your lunch. So gentlemen, we have a real pressure on us. I'm counting on you. Some logistics. For those of you who have questions, please, if you could walk up to the middle of the aisle, and one of us will hand over a mic to you if you have questions. What I'll do is I'll run through a first round of questions, and then I'll pause to see if we have any questions from the floor. And for those of you who are watching us live on Facebook, please do key in your questions, and we'll be happy to take them as well. So let me start with the first question. Many of you actually in your presentation, and Mr. Jivan, you also mentioned it, the government over the last 2 years have actually implemented and rolled out many initiatives to support our SMEs, whether it's through their ministries, agencies, financial institutions, even corporates, right? So if you look at it, we have the PENJANA smart automation, we have SME digitalization, we have even the Bank Negara 1 billion facility that was actually made available, right? So having said that, the World Bank I think it was on the 24th of June, actually published a report called Malaysia Economic Monitor. And in that report, it says that our SMEs actually lag behind their peers and counterparts of the region, especially in the area of output and productivity. I'd like to hear your thoughts why that might be. And maybe I'll give Jivan a break because he just finished his presentation and start with Berhad. Just putting you on the spot there.
That's a good choice. You know, I was thinking you go from there. I will be number 3. Okay, I guess from my point of view is that I think the challenge of adopting, technology and everything is going to be there. It's like Jiva said, it's going to be a risk. There's going to be cost. there's going to be implementation and things. But I guess the point here is that, and I challenge the MSME out there, when you look at this and the decision to go into this, are you looking at it from a stakeholder of yourself being the entrepreneur, or you're looking at it from a business, your own business enterprise that needs to go to the next step? Because obviously if you're looking at it from your own entrepreneur perspective, you're only looking at funding, cost, and profitability. But if you take yourself out and say, you look from your business enterprise perspective, do I need it? If I need it, how do I sustain? How do I grow from it? I think that's the two part we need to distinguish ourselves. And it's not the fault of the MSME, because MNC, GLCs have got different departments that can support the organization to make the rightful decision. But as an SME and MSME, you've got yourself and maybe one or two other family members who's running the business operations. You then could be clouded in terms of the decision making. But that's, I guess that's the part that earlier I talked about. If we have a peer group of sharing, and that can actually lead to having to make the rightful decision, because you can share the experience from the successful ones, but like Jeevan said also, we can also share from the mistakes and the learnings that others have come across, and that's going to be across the entire peer for the industry. That's my point there.
Thank you. That's a bit of tough love there, with the differentiation being an individual entrepreneur versus a business entrepreneur. I thank you very much for that, Berhad. Leong or Jeevan, anything to add?
Just my point of view, I think Malaysians are highly skeptical type of people. So when it comes to social media, Facebook, all that, I think we are very good at it. But when it comes to adopting digital, all that, I find that Malaysians are a little bit slow. We have got this attitude of wait and see, just like us paying for, the fine charges for like, the police summons and all that. We always have this thought of wait and see, let's just see how people do first, and then if people do it well, then we'll just follow along and all that. So Malaysians somehow have got this type of attitude of waiting and seeing how it goes. If it works, then people will start to do it. So need to, again, like what I said, change our mindset to be faster, more agile, and do things faster. So that's how I look at it. I think we need to really change and to take that leap of faith and not just be a follower. That's how I look at it. Thanks.
I think the key message there is agility, and I think we really don't have the time to think anymore. It is about act. Yeah, Jeevan, yourself?
I think Berhad expressed it very well. For one, if you look at SMEs in Europe and Australia, the first thing they say is, has this been done anywhere else? If it's not done somewhere else, they don't want to do it. They want to be the first. They want to be the first movers to that. In Europe as well as even in Australia. So the ability to take risk is higher, and they want to take that risk, number one. Number two is this what Leong said about, they like to wait, see whether anybody else is doing, whether my relatives, anybody is doing, and then only embark that particular journey. And that really tantamount means that you're running on a treadmill, you're sweating, your heart rates are up, and you suddenly realize you've not gone anywhere. And I think the SMEs are all running on treadmills in some shape or form. They've not spent time to see, how do I need to change the way we do business? Can I take the first mover advantage? And can I create an ecosystem with my fellow peers? Hey, this you've done before, not done. Let's try it lah. Let's see what happens. Let's all of us collectively put and see whether it works out or not. So that mindset I see very much missing with the SMEs.
Okay, great. So I think that really sums it up. We have first movers, agility being key items that you need to take away from the first feedback that I've got. Now, Jeevan mentioned Grab. Grab was a former Malaysian startup. And you know that on the 2nd of December, they actually got listed in the US NASDAQ, and it is the largest ever Southeast Asia company to have been listed in the NASDAQ. And I think it's obviously a real miss for us in terms of an opportunity. What do we need to do differently to not have this happen again? Which one of you would take a stab at that? Jeevan, you're going to go?
No, I'm not. I want to point to the most learned one, Berhad, I think.
Okay, I will share from my perspective. I know the story behind it, but I think it's not right to put it here. I think the point here is back to the fact that if any organization is willing to take the first step to be the lead, the question then is the surrounding ecosystem, the government agency, the regulators, everybody, are they thinking the same wavelength as you? I think that's the part. While it's easy to say it here on paper, do it, and when organization does it, are we bold enough to work along with them and make it successful? Not because it's not done before, we pull them back. I think that's the part, and we need that ecosystem for people to be, for organization, MSME, to be able to take the next leap of faith to move forward with it.
I think that's a fair insight. And I think, Berhad, you were the one who mentioned that, we are probably lacking in implementation. I think it's got to do with that again, right? We have a lot of the building blocks in place. However, the implementation seems still very far from realizing the results. What about both of you?
I'd like to echo what Berhad said. I think as much as Malaysia government system and all the other agencies that support entrepreneurship, startups, I think they've got it wrong. I want to say they've got it wrong because the proof is on the pudding. We've not seen we've seen very good talent, very good companies leaving the ecosystem to another ecosystem because they think it's a fair game, it's a fair share, a fair exposure, I can do better there. So, and it's only because, it's no fault of any of these agencies, because these government agencies are typically run by sons of civil servants. They are not entrepreneurs. They are not venture capitalists. They don't know the element of risk. First question, pernah buat kat mana-mana tak? Tak pernah buat kan? Kenapa kita nak buat? Kita tunggu saja. So they will say, let's wait it out, don't take risk. And from an entrepreneur lens perspective, I want to do this. If I'm passionate and I'm really gung-ho and die-hard about this, I will go wherever it takes for me to launch my product. If it's not in Malaysia and Malaysia ecosystem doesn't give me the opportunity, I would go somewhere else to do it. And that's, in a nutshell, Grab's story.
Thank you so much for that. Leong, anything to add?
I think we all must learn from our mistakes, and then I think Grab was one of the good learning points that we have, and I think we do see that now Malaysians are trying to learn from that experience, and we have seen some of these companies, like maybe just an example would be AirAsia, who has actually done well. I mean, they came out from Malaysia itself and all those things, and from here you can see them being a regional and a world player right now. So we have seen that we have learned. I think the most important thing about things is that we learn from mistakes and make sure we learn from mistakes and improve on it. So I do see Grab was a mistake, but I do see that we are trying to improve on it. I think the most important thing is learning from mistakes. That's how I look at it.
Thanks, Leong. And actually, that's a great lead into my next question, because if you look at the Malaysian Digital Blueprint, right, they say that we would like to catalyze at least 5,000 startups, and we'd like to have unicorns in the next 5 years, 2 to 5 unicorns in the next 5 years. So, having said that, right, do we have the right ecosystem to support such a target? From what I'm hearing is we are in a scary place, but I still am putting that out.
No, I maybe I'll take a swab at this. I think we've got great aspirations. I must give it to all government agencies and government. We put very good blueprint plans, but again, it comes down to implementation. And the true test of MSC in Malaysia is a 25-year-old story. MSC, we started this MSC journey 25 years ago
today, globally, Vietnam and probably Singapore is obviously ahead of us. Vietnam and probably Laos is catching up in that space. So what's wrong with the formula that we have? We have great blueprints, but somehow we flutter in the implementation side of it. And somewhere along the line, we get lost in that whole journey. And then we lose a couple of years, and we get distracted by the politics of the land and all the other stuff. And next thing you know, we're still running on a treadmill, heart rates are up, perspiring, but not going anywhere.
Yep. Well taken. Anybody, any other thoughts? Any
Maybe
viewpoints?
I just add on is that, going back to the point, the blueprint is good, but I think this country has quite a lot of government agencies, and each agency has got its own KPIs and its own objective, right? The collaborative part between the government agencies to make that blueprint or to make that project work, I think that's lacking, because if the proposal comes out, and I'm speaking from experience on the same part, MSE, if the proposal comes out, it's fantastic, it's the way to move forward with, let's say, the innovative idea to go digital or to create a center of excellence in Malaysia and everything. 3/4 of the voting government agencies supports it. There's another 2 or 3 doesn't agree with it. And that problem, that time to overcome the whole discussion takes too long, frustrates the applicant or the person. And as Jeevan said, if I go to a neighboring country, within 3 weeks, it gets whole processed, and they even bring in a funding JV equity partner for you. That's how, that's how efficient the whole system works in other countries. I think on our part here is that those government agencies, each one have got their own priorities, I think too isolated on their own rather than looking at it from the entire project.
So what I'm hearing is it's consolidation of KPIs. In fact, agencies, and I think in one of the webinars that I was in, it was mentioned that we have about 95 agencies and ministries put together, and that is what shall I say, a nightmare on its own in terms of implementation. Yeah, so thank you for that. It says, research says that there's only 1% of startups that actually make it, right? So is there an ecosystem or an intervention that's put in place for those that fail and come back into the ecosystem to help them participate in maybe startups that are successful, to redeploy them into their systems? Is there any such thing that's out there like that?
Can I take a...
Yes, of course.
So, I think it's very fragmented in Malaysia. There's many agencies, but it's very fragmented. Why I say that is because there will be many failures for startups. There'll be many support systems. But it's so fragmented from the multiple agencies that we have that from an entrepreneur perspective, it is just too cumbersome to walk the corridors of Putrajaya just to get something done, where he can probably take a bus ride 4 hours down south and get things solved within a couple of weeks. And that's truly from a lens of entrepreneur, because he's got he doesn't have infinite funding, he's only got finite funding, finite time, and he's got the sense of urgency and passion to do something within the shortest period of time. And if we don't provide this in this ecosystem in Malaysia, if I, in any form of entrepreneur, will go somewhere else where it provides that particular ecosystem.
Jeevan, I've got a question for you. If you had an opportunity to voice what you do differently, now that you said it's fragmented, beyond centralizing or beyond making it more streamlined, what would that look like?
I think there's a clear mandate for the agencies to have a much more cohesive and, how can I say, detailed and in-depth conversation with the ecosystem of startups. It's not about, they shouldn't look at startups as, you want my money, so you come to me. And I will tell you these are the rules of engagement. And if you only pass these rules of engagement, I will decide in my own committee members how much we will give you as funding. It's not that way. We've got to reverse this entire dimension to a different dimension. It's not, it's about, if you say the KPIs is to create X amount of unicorns, then it's no more of them waiting for startups to come. It's about them going to startups and knocking every startup or potential startup doors and say, sir, how can I help you? We heard you have a phenomenal idea in healthcare. How can we help you? It's not about you coming to me, and that's what other countries are doing. The Scandinavian countries are doing it. The country down south is doing it. Because they go, they sniff something like that remotely, potentially is going to be huge. They go and say, how can we help you accelerate it? How can we work with you to remove all the red tapes and get you to where you are in a shortest period of time?
I so resonate to that. Berhad, do you have anything you want to add on? What about you yourself, Leong?
I do see some gaps on the government agencies, but I also want to highlight that the MSMEs also have a role to play to have more hunger into their business. I also find that what Jeevan says is true, but I also find that a lot of SMEs are just waiting and hoping that things will happen for them without even wanting to put in the additional effort. So I find that it is both parties needs to play that pivotal role to make it happen, because I do see a lot of SMEs just asking for grants and grants and grants, not wanting to really grow up, always thinking that the government should be helping out, but they are not helping out themselves. So I do believe that the SMEs themselves have to help themselves first before other people come and help them out. That's how I look at it. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm going to take a logical pause and just ask if anybody has any questions from the floor. Anyone? No? Okay. I'll go on then. Actually, this is a good lead on to the next question. If you look at our neighboring countries like South Korea, in 2019, they already had 30,000 startups. And we are hoping to achieve 5,000 startups in 2025. What do you think that says about us? Have we made a humble goal for ourselves and not stretched it enough? What are your thoughts around that? And any one of you can go take a stab at this.
Firstly, the platform for it has to be there. You come up with the idea, you come up with the motive. The platform to facilitate and implement it has to be there. So that's the first part. The second part is the ecosystem, the framework must be able to support it. Whilst we talked about different government agencies, different framework, different rules, different governance that you have in place, that already make it very challenging. So that's the first part. Then the second part is startups are going to be innovative, they're going to be new. Who do we have the right team to be able to help them to facilitate it? The point I want to make across is startups are always going to be entrepreneurs who is going to be very good at what they do from a business perspective. They need the ecosystem to be able to support them to grow and to build that business enterprise. Like I said earlier, MNC GLCs would have finance department, legal, governance, everyone to support it. Startups, MSME, you don't have that. So the platform of having the right structure to support them is going to be important. Earlier, the question was about how do we then learn from the mistake of startups and go from it. We can turn it around. We can have people sharing their mistakes in the platform to be able to support them. Because we should think about supporting them to succeed rather than wait and learn from the mistakes or the failures to it. I like to turn it the other way around. We need that platform to be getting from others to be able to support them to grow. That's more important, because then you have the hunger to come forward and reach out for that kind of support. Because your business idea, your model is there, you need the others to support you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. That's actually, let me just check if there's any questions from the online platform. Do we have any questions from the online platform? No? Anybody from the floor has decided to have any questions come through? No? Okay. So let me move on. When we talk about the digital economy, it seems like everybody focuses on digital skills. Harvard Business Review had actually created an article in 2020, May 2020, and said that
it is not about technical skills alone, because technical skills can be developed and you can quickly learn it, but it's more about soft skills. And it's things like high learnability in an individual that actually differentiates the quick or the speed of them actually learning up and being ready for the digital economy. What are your thoughts about this? And maybe I'll start with Leong first.
Okay. Somehow I think like Malaysians, the key thing is all about our own attitude. And if you realize that in many things that we do, we are fairly shy type of people, you know. So if you go to a seminar in overseas and all that, you see a lot of people putting up their hands, asking a lot of questions and all that. So whereas for us, I'm sure a lot of the members here have a lot of questions to ask. It's just that people are shy and not willing to come up and speak up and all that. So to me, I think in terms of our characteristics as Malaysians, we are always very forgiving, we are always very shy and all that. So if we really want to do well in many things that we want, really need to learn how to speak up, be the leader. Because I find Malaysians, there are many things that we are very good at, but we never want to be the leader, you know, even though we are good at it. We will wait, as like what I said just now, we will wait, and then when somebody shows that they can do it, then we will start to show that we can do it. So maybe it's because of our education system, or maybe because of our culture, we want to be humble and all those things. So this has actually been, in certain ways, hamper our growth. So there are many questions, like this is one good example. There may be many questions that people want to ask, but they don't dare to ask, so they may not find the answer. So we have this. So to me, I think is that we really need to learn how to speak up, talk more openly and all that. So just the same as technology, we need to learn how to accept this technology, live with it, and do better with it. That's how I look at it. That's how I think.
Thanks, Leong. So I think what you're homing into is really about people being able to step up and take the lead, and also be in an uncomfortable position as part of being harnessing soft skills, right? What about Jeevan and Berhad? Any thoughts from yourself?
I always tell my team, and even the leaders in our organization, we are very good at what we do. I'm a very strong technical consultant, yes. But over time, I need to pick up HR skills. I need to manage my team. I need to manage the business side of it. I need to manage public speaking and all this. Where would be the kind of way that SMEs can reach out to in order to be successful? And that's the part. Because digital automation comes in, will impact the entire supply chain, the entire ecosystem of your organization. How that is going to impact you, I don't have an answer to that. But how do you learn from it, whether change management, your own employees' behavioral changes in that sense. I myself have to learn how to even approve things online while we're sitting down here. So these are the things that I think we need to take 2 steps forward to be able to make sure that we manage and think about it. Whilst pandemic has taught us to be more acceptable to technology and investing in it, because we have that border lockdown, we have the restriction of movements, we implement it to reach out to our customers, our stakeholders. But you got to think then beyond that, because earlier I talked about governance and everything, the back end and everything, you also need the whole ecosystem. I think it's going to be very difficult if you start on the digital automation journey. You only go halfway, you don't go full scale. It's very hard to work partly labor, partly automation. So I think that's the part that you also need to transition out of it.
Some key points there. Thank you so much for that. Berhad, Jeevan, you seem very thoughtful.
Yeah, interestingly, 18 months ago I told our HR, we don't want to hire any more people. I don't want to hire people who's looking for a job. I said, we've done enough of that. We've hired enough people who's looking for a 9-to-5 job, and they're coming into an organization, they just want to fill a space and go off. I said, I want to completely change the way we hire people.
I say, oh, I only have 3 criteria. I want to hire people who have creativity, who have passion, and who have empathy. And these are only 3 criteria. It's no more, it's going to be degrees and all of that are just a passport to get a job. But if these 3 criteria don't come out in any form of in the interview, then obviously this is not the right organization for it.
Absolutely. So I just totally vouch for that. And, research also says the same thing, right? If you look at the World Economic Forum and skills that they need, they home in on creativity, people who can do critical thinking, problem solving, leadership and emotional intelligence are key elements that you would take away. Now, actually, would you believe it or not, we are almost close to wrap up time, but this is definitely not a loaded question coming from a female, but I had to ask it. So in 2019, Dr. Wan Aziza actually mentioned that we in Malaysia have only 20% of women representing entrepreneurs. How do you think the digital economy now gives it an opportunity for women to actually play a larger part in this? Not a loaded question, gentlemen. You're safe.
Maybe I can answer.
Sure.
I can answer. Based on our findings for when we did a lot of analysis on gender, nothing sexist or anything, but females were better paymasters than men, just to highlight.
I agree totally. Here.
Just to highlight. It's just that why we can only see 20% is maybe because they have got higher responsibility because of the family. They need to look after the kids and all that. But because of digitalization, you can see that ladies now can actually work from home, and there's a new growth market, which is the gig economy. So you can actually see people selling on Facebook, selling cosmetics on Facebook, selling clothes, selling bags and whatsoever. So if you were to do a so-called research right now, I'm sure the 20% has actually risen because the digitalization, due to digitalization, the platform, you can actually see that more women are able to do, which women are very good at doing balancing act, so that they can actually look after the family and do the business at the same time.
Well, Leong says so many things that I just want to nod and agree. But I'll hold my thoughts on that. Jeevan, go ahead, Jeevan.
I think women have a very, very unique proposition to any country. Why I say that is, if you want to see how progressive a country is, you just need to go and do a dipstick about how they treat their women, how much of opportunities are given to women, and how much freedom is given to them to do what they do best. That's a dipstick for our country. If you go to the Scandinavian countries, you see that very prevalent. You go to non-so-progressive countries, you can see that how distinctively different it is. So I think women in any country plays a very pivotal role in spearing the economy, and unfortunately in the Asian world, they carry a whole lot of burden on their shoulder. Number one, as a daughter, they have a responsibility to the care of the parents. Number two, as siblings. Number three, tomorrow if they get married, the role of a wife. When they have kids, role of a mother. And now they've got four roles that they need to to manage. Now you put entrepreneurship and you put all of that. I mean, let's be fair. The plate is literally full. So, but how is that they come up with the most empathetic solutions in the world? How is it possible that they are able to do all these multiple tasks and yet maintain that balance? And that's why I think women have a very, very pivotal role in every country, and the true yardstick and progress of a country is really dependent on how well and how much opportunity we give the women folks in this country.
Thanks, Jeevan. Before I summarize, I'm just going to hear out Berhad. I'm on a high here right now, so I'll just let Berhad go ahead.
In my kind of profession in our industry, It's actually the other way around. It's 60% women, 40% men. That's unfortunate part it is. In the firm itself...
You got the formula right. You got the formula right.
I didn't catch that. I thought he said fortunate.
Because when we talk about diversity and everything, our leader says, hey, we need more men into this profession because we need to balance up the... And when I started, when I started 26 years ago, it was almost like 50-50 or even 40% women, but it's grown in that sense from there. I guess it's, and in our organization, the way we practice is that we are very adaptable, we are very flexible. We work towards the skill set, we work towards the also intention and the wishes of each individual to be able to match the skill with their objective, their aspiration, and also the timing of it. So there's no, for us, it's not because we are a woman or a man, it's all based on the individual, we respect the individual, we work towards with them to move along their career. And I think the other point is, we're also looking towards the same thing. We're looking for people who actually wants to build a career rather than looking for a job. That's the first message we put across in an interview, regardless of whether, in EY we're completely D&I, right? Regardless of whether your sex, your preference, or whatever it is, we don't care. We look towards that what you can contribute, and it has to be two-way. It's just like the same thing if we're talking about today in MSME and everything. What you as an entrepreneur can contribute to the country, to the economy, to the government, it has to work the other way around. What the government and the rest can support and contribute back to you. And that's the philosophy we're in. It has to work both ways. It cannot just be one way where because it's the trend, we want to put more women on the board of directors, let's do it. But we do it with a reason and a purpose. We must find that reason and purpose to achieve that target, not just because it's a number that we want to achieve, full stop. And I think that's the point here.
And I'm just my 2 cents on it. I think I totally resonate with that. It should be on merit, but on the other hand, I think there must be a conscious effort in corporates or in organizations to look at this agenda as part of a concerted effort to see if there is diversity in the organization, really because it mirrors what your consumer is. And it does bring productivity to the organization. So thank you so much. We are actually going to wrap up right now. I'm just going to ask if there's any other questions. We have a question from the floor. Thank you, Mr. Rama.
Okay, I have one question. Okay, nowadays SMEs face the challenges of accessing to finance. This is mainly due to inability or lack of access to technology. So how do you going to address that issue? Because they are unable to access to technology. So I'd like to know.
Should I forward that to you, Leong? Just being...
Okay, I think... I don't think it's correct. I think that the lack of technology will not make the SME cannot get a loan. To me, I look at it. It's more of the SMEs themselves. The few key things that the banks will always look at is that the first key thing is that can you repay your monthly installments or not? Can you pay the loan? So to me, the key thing is not so much on the technology, but it's about whether you can actually repay your loan. So they will be looking at the so-called financials of this company to see whether can this person repay the loan. On the digitalization part, it comes as secondary to see whether the customer, are they competitive enough to run the business and to make sure that this company is sustainable. Digitalization helps the company to become more sustainable. To me, I look at it. So when the company doesn't digitalize, sometimes they are left behind. So there is a chance that moving forward, this company may not be doing so well. So that's how the banks will look at it. But if you look at on the merits of it, definitely it doesn't mean that if you don't digitalize, you're not going to get a loan. Definitely it won't be this way. It will be more of, the first question asked is that, look at your financials. Are you able to pay a loan? If you are able to pay a loan, definitely the banks will be more than happy to grant them the loan. So this is how I answer the question.
Okay. Because most of them are
Yeah.
still, unable to adapt to the changes in technology.
Yes.
So that will definitely affect the.
The good thing about the banks right now is that all the loans is still manual, still orang-matic. You still see a lot of sales people from the banks going around talking to these people. So it hasn't come to a point whereby the SMEs have to apply online and all that. So that hasn't happened yet. So there are a lot of things whereby, because it's still manual orang-matic, the banks are still willing to look at the annual reports and all that, not so much on digitalization. So this is my feedback. I don't think digitalization is one of the key components that the banks will not lend to them at this moment in time.
Okay.
Maybe somebody can also chip in. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rama, for that question.
Thank you.
Actually, this we have to call it a wrap already. 30 minutes is up.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank all my panelists for being such good spots and giving response, and to you all for participating. Thank you very much. I'll hand it over to Stella to wrap up the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let us give Mr. Leong, Mr. Yap, Mr. Jivan, our three panelists, and Suganti a big round of applause for the wonderful insights shared during the panel discussion. I would like to call upon Mr. Sivayanam Rajaratnam, Chief Executive Officer, to come forward to stage to present a token of appreciation to our distinguished speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the program. We would like to thank each and every one of you present here today and on virtual platform via Zoom and Facebook Live for making time to join us today. I would also like to take this opportunity to once again thank our main sponsor and collaborative partner, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and supporting partners, Federation of Public Listed Companies Berhad, FPLC, and the Malaysian Insurance Institute, MII, for their continuous support. As a reminder, we have a final session tomorrow, which starts at 9 a.m. here at the Le Meridian Putrajaya on the topic of Beyond a Pandemic, Building Towards a Sustainable and Resilient Recovery after COVID-19. And our guest of honor is none other than Yang Berbahagia, Tan Sri Nazir Razak, Chairman, Bank Bangunan, Malaysia Berhad. Please register for this event if you have not done so, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you via Zoom and Facebook Live tomorrow. It's been our pleasure to host this event, and I wish you all a pleasant day. For those of you who are present here, please proceed to the latest recipe restaurant, which is situated at the ground floor for lunch. Thank you, everyone, and stay safe.